Hello, Why, XSplit, aren't you working? There you go. Hello, Internet! And welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman, and this is episode 315. You're watching on the 11th or later. We recorded on the 10th. We've got some mini rapid fire. We've got stuff that, of course, it happened right after we finished recording the cast last week. And then, of course, we would be remiss if we didn't talk a little bit about Hearthstone, Blizzard, and Hong Kong. Joining me to talk about all of it, Mr. Jason Winter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine for now, but if I have to hold my breath for this entire cast, it is going to be really ugly by the time we get to the end.
Probably. Q and I will duo the show. Also on the line, Ms. Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
I'm sorry, I was just really distracted by the cat behind you.
Yes, my cat's behind me. Now, can you shift to your right just a little bit?
Whoa, what the hell just
happened to your camera?
Now you're green.
What?
Now she's green.
I don't know what this is. I have no idea.
Q is now the Incredible
That
Hulk.
is the worst Instagram filter ever.
Well, oh, geez.
What is going on?
I think your camera is now wigging out because of the light. Slide to your right just a little bit. No, I thought every time you blocked that light coming from your window, it fixed itself.
And we thought Mike's shirt being blue or purple was bad.
Yeah. I had one of those internet shirts. Is the dress white or is it gold or whatever the hell it was? But Q just has the worst Instagram filter ever. We'll let her try to figure it out as we slide over and get started with the news. All right, getting started with the rapid fire round. This was bound to happen. New battle royales. Yes, more new battle royales, but you probably didn't see this one coming because honestly, I had to reread the press release in my email a few times before I assigned it out because I wasn't sure if it was real or not. But yeah, Fiesta Online, blast from the past. I remember doing an event in that game with MMO Bombers a long time ago. Gamigo decided, you know what's missing from Fiesta, Jason? A battle royale.
That's what's missing from every game that doesn't have one already. Yeah, a battle royale in Fiesta Online, which of course is a hardcore, slaughtering, kill or be killed kind of game, right? So it makes sense.
I don't think that's like what Fiesta's about at all, actually.
Oh, maybe it's a battle royale. We have to like make friends, and the last person without a friend is the one who loses or something. I don't know.
Right.
But no, it seems like to be a pretty typical battle royale. You go around, you probably be the last one standing. There's a death field or whatever that closes in. It's all green. That's what happened to Q. Q is inside the green death field. It's
Q,
like H1C1.
Q.
On my end, it's showing up as being fine.
It keeps going back and forth. I don't know if you know this. You hang the green screen behind you. It goes behind you. Just a little
on my end,
pro
the camera is displaying just fine. Like I checked the settings and everything, and even in my little thing up there, it's just fine.
Maybe give it the old USB unplug, plug back in.
I think it might be something between here and there, not here. But
I don't know. Usually, internet connection doesn't result in one of you becoming green.
Are you envious of someone, Q? Are you jealous?
She's got green eyes. That's what's going on. So yeah, Fiesta Online is in the including a new Kingdom quest that allows you to compete in an onslaught battle royale mode. There is going to be a leaderboard to track victors, and if you win, you get a runic aura, and that makes your character glow in a golden light. So that's pretty neat. If you're a Fiesta person, you got to win the battle royale though.
Q is glowing in a light right now. Yeah,
Q has won. Q has won the Slimer Ghostbusters battle royale. So yeah, Fiesta fans, there you go. I don't think much more needs to be said. Jason, this one, I don't know. Correct me here. Like, did you like Eternal, the card game, or did you just know some people at Direwolf? And now Q is sending Atari sound effects our way.
I'm trying to fix this, but I really don't think it's on my end.
Well,
All right, well, we'll get back to Q later.
Yeah, Jason, what's your thing with Eternal? Because I always send it to you, but I can't remember if it's because you liked Eternal or because you knew people at Dire Wolf or a combination of the two. I don't remember.
It's because I know people there, and I played it a little bit, and it just wasn't really that interesting to me. But it is still pretty interesting to a lot of people. It gets it's pretty good numbers on Steam for a CC. Oh, hello.
Q just decided to leave.
For a CCG.
Oh, Jason, what is going on with your face?
Gets pretty good numbers. Surprisingly good considering all the different free-to-play CCGs that are on Steam and elsewhere. So, it's a significant thing right now, and good for them for porting to a new platform.
Yeah, it's going to get bigger now that it's on the Switch, which I think is, not only is the Switch becoming like the home of ports, but I mean, card games just seem right at home on that particular platform, as well as they do on your mobile phones and everything.
Yeah, because you don't have a whole lot of controls and so on, so and something you can take on the go. Just like I said, play a game or two on the bus or the subway or whatever as you're going. The alien signal that's coming along.
What the fuck? All right, Q, whatever you're doing, you gotta stop now.
If she can still hear us.
I'm gonna go ahead and mute her until we see
her
back. Yeah.
All right, but yeah. I mean, every CCG probably should be on a mobile device. Obviously, they're already on iOS and Android, so it makes sense they'd also get on Switch.
So, Dire Wolf moving Eternal, porting it onto the Switch. It's already available on Steam, iOS, Android, Xbox One. Means there's only one platform noticeably missing there. In this expansion that's also going to put it on the Switch, we're getting 200 new cards, new mechanics, and we're going to a whole new world there. Not to mention that you could compete for your chance to take home some of the $100,000 prize pool, which, Jason, that just seems like a ridiculous-sized prize pool for a game like Eternal.
Again, they must be doing a lot better than we think.
Is it really that big? Yeah, exactly.
Aware of.
So if you want to check it out, go ahead and check it out. It will be available on the Switch. It is available now on the Switch, so you can go ahead. Speaking of that, before we move on from this one, Jason, I do want your take on this. So it's not available on the PlayStation 4 yet. Presumably that's because crossplay has historically been an issue with PlayStation 4. PlayStation 4 is announced, or Sony has announced that now they're going to play nice on this front. They did some beta testing for crossplay and all that stuff, and now it should no longer be a problem. So, or it's very soon, it will no longer be a problem. Developers are now going to be able to take advantage of crossplay with the Sony PlayStation 4, which I think is great. Sony PlayStation 5 just announced that it's going to be released holiday 2020, so we've got a year before we see the PlayStation 5. And, yeah, does this mean that Destiny 2 is going to be crossplay really soon? Because I have a feeling like that was one where they were like, ugh, we really want this to be crossplay.
As much as they want anything, because remember, PlayStation 4 is the best place to play all your games.
It is. It is. And remember the whole reason for this. We want control over the quality of our community. Really? Oh, and now Q just dropped from Skype entirely.
Okay.
There you go, Jason. Just...
This is fine.
Just sit like that the entire time. And then when I switch back to your shot, we get that.
You can see my pores.
All right, sliding over, continuing with the rapid fire news, the smaller stuff that we just thought was neat enough to bring up. The Last Frontier, a sci-fi MMO, will be closing down. Yeah, you might also know this one as Exidium Corp. Exidium Corp, but Last Frontier was the official name. It is shutting down on the fictional date of November 31st. Jason, you had a lot of fun with that date. I never once even played this game. Did you?
No, not so much. In fact, when I was doing the article on it, I looked at the screenshots. I was like, wow, the screenshots we put in the system in 2016. It was that long ago? Like, I remembered writing about it. I remember, when I went to the website, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this thing, and I was like, wow, really that long ago, huh?
All right, yay!
Hey,
we got
she's
Q
back.
back.
She's not green.
Let me unmute her now. Oh nope, she is.
Hello.
How do I unmute her? It's not showing her as muted.
Her, but opposite.
But yeah, I pull that up. See, look, it doesn't. it doesn't have me as muting her, but her mic icon is definitely showing muted. This is the best, most professional cast in the world that you are watching right now. We fixed this shit on the fly. Seriously, why are you still muted? I don't get it.
Has she muted herself?
I don't know. It shows her as muted.
Yeah, I see that too.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, you muted yourself.
I did not purposely mute myself.
All right.
I did not.
Had me freaking out because I
turned off the camera.
I muted you while you were like sending us Atari sound effects, and then when I saw that you were muted, I was like, oh, okay, I gotta unmute her. Well, wait, she's not muted on my side anymore. All right, so we're talking about The Last Frontier closing down. Not really much else to say besides it's probably going to close on November 30th, obviously, not the 31st. So if you're a fan, get in there now. Q, you came back just in time to talk about Secret Worlds Legend new content, right?
Why do you do this to me?
Well, I saw the headline. A new ARG has been created to go with Secret World Legends spin-off game. So not even Secret World. What the hell's going on here?
I mean, we knew about the spin-off game for a while. It's that pay-to-play, going to the moon, something game, and we've known about it for a while, which they've had, a few of those kind of Secret World spin-off things. They're just not really creating new content for the Secret World itself.
Well, wait, we put up another article on Secret World today, though. That had to have new content in it, right?
I mean, the Halloween event is back, and it's the same Halloween event. We do pretty much, if you have all the items in that you would get in the Halloween event, only to the Halloween event if you need, the points and stuff to add to your skills. Otherwise, I don't know. There's probably going to be a community costume thing, because there's always a community costume thing, because the community does that shit and they're pretty great at it.
And they're keeping the game alive.
Yeah, all by them little selves, I swear. And then there's there's going to be new content in the form of new agents that the community's creating.
Cool. Oh, wait, what?
So free labor.
Right.
They're having a contest, and there'll be the grand prize gets like a portrait of their character and everything, or their agent. You create they create the agent. They tell you what the agent is, whether it's human or monster or animal or whatever. They give you the stats on, like, the players are doing this. Give you the stats, and then they have to create, the flavor text, and then the winners will all be put into the game, and everybody who participates gets them, as well as agents based on the two community managers. Yeah, that's the new content.
Like, it's a really cool contest. I like that kind of stuff. But for a game, Jason, that hasn't put out new content in a very, very long time, it seems a bit disingenuous to have this type of competition where, hey, create some content and we'll put it in the game, no matter how big or small that content piece is, doesn't it? It just kind of rubs me the wrong way, when normally I would be all over this type of contest for creative reasons. I love this kind of stuff.
Well, it's that or nothing. Because it clearly ain't bringing in the money for them to actually make new content. So pick.
It's that or nothing. All right, Jason, short and succinct as always. Nice job. Within minutes of shutting down from recording last week's show, where Jason and I talked an awful lot about Destiny 2 since it had just come out, and yes, we'll be talking more about Destiny in future episodes, I am sure. There's already new content added for those of you that own Shadowkeep. Right after the cast ended, we got news that Mike O'Brien, co-founder of ArenaNet, was leaving to form a new studio. This dude's been there for like 20 years. Helped start the place, did Guild Wars 2. He's leaving. Jason, what's going on? Is this good for the game, bad for the game? It seems like we got nothing more than he wants to go and work on some smaller stuff again, like when he was, first starting his own thing.
It's interesting how almost every big CEO or big programmer or developer at some point, in terms of person, eventually they want to do that after they've I won't say necessarily after they made bank from their big game or whatever, but they all eventually want to go off and become a small programmer again, a small dev like they were in the beginning. We saw John Smedley do it. We've seen now what's his name, Richard Garriott
and then Smedley ended
times.
up with Amazon.
Yeah. Once you realize you couldn't actually make money with those other stupid little things. But again, now Richard Garriott, moving on. Now he did his thing, and now that apparently got sold out, which is whatever. But we'll see what he can do with this as well. But in terms of how it affects ArenaNet, it's interesting because I've seen a lot of people, not just the layoffs, of course, those were a big deal, back in February. But a lot of people just seem to be leaving the company. A lot of really old time people. Mike O'Brien mentioned there. He's got a couple of the people he's taken with him to his new company, ManaWorks.
But weren't they already ex ArenaNet people?
Sure. I'm not saying
he didn't pull them with him or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're departing right at that moment, but I'm a little surprised. Actually, the names I recognize them, and I haven't followed Guild Wars 2 and ArenaNet as much in the past year or two as did in the past. But I saw some of those names. I was like, oh, those guys aren't in ArenaNet anymore. I didn't even know that. That's how I knew them. I had no idea they were doing something else. And unrelated to that, like just a couple of days later, I just saw a random post of some other guy that I knew from ArenaNet in some other company. And I was like, oh, I didn't know he left either. And then our old friend from Game Breaker, Elizabeth Carty, also had her last day at ArenaNet on Friday. So
wait, she's not at ArenaNet? Like that?
Yeah, she's gone.
That just proves your point that I would not have known that had you not said that. And you're right. Exactly. I actually do know her and didn't even know that she left.
But just like I don't want to use the rats and sinking ship analogy, but man, it's interesting how
they already had layoffs earlier this year.
Yeah, I know. It's interesting how a lot of these very long time people, of course, you go back a couple of years when Colin Johansson left to go to Amazon Game Studio. That was another big name there, and various other people back in the Guild Wars. Well, it's back in the Guild Wars 1 days also left. So it's interesting to see this many people that are leaving the company.
Picking up will be game director Mike, and I'm gonna butcher this. I apologize. Jason, maybe
Zadarajny.
Thank you. You can rescue me.
He is not actually going to be the CEO. There's another name. I don't remember who it was, but someone else is actually taking that over. I think Mike is still just the game director. He is taking on a larger role, as Mike O'Brien said, but it's going to be not as like president of the company.
So he's kind of like interim then, I guess?
No, they actually named the other guy. It was someone who actually was like NC Softwest or something like that. I don't remember. He is. I mean, he's probably the equivalent of like what Colin Johansson was in terms of being number 2 to Mike O'Brien back in the day. That same sort of thing. I think Mike O'Brien had a somewhat active role in the development of the game, whereas I think the new guys will be more of an executive type, and Zadarajny is going to mostly just be the
handle the development side. Makes sense. Q, does this spell ill futures for Guild Wars 2, in your opinion? I mean, it hasn't all been great news in 2019. Not that, it's been catastrophic or anything, but layoffs are never good. People leaving usually is an indication of something going awry or something, like Jason said, maybe rats leaving a sinking ship. I don't think it's that dire for ArenaNet or Guild Wars 2, and I think, Jason, you hesitated to use that analogy, so you probably agree with me that it's not that dire. But,
it's not going to the Secret Worlds Legend category.
Right. Is it more of a canary in a coal mine analogy, where there might be something awry? Like, what does the future of Guild Wars 2 / ArenaNet look like here with all these types of changes?
Oh, God, I have no freaking idea. Honestly, with so much of this stuff, it's like like you were saying with CEOs and stuff like that, they kind of after a while do tend to get, I guess, like an itch to go back to their roots or whatever, which is common for creatives in general. Like, you kind of want to go back to doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you ascend the ladder to a certain point, and then your job responsibilities don't become anything like what you got into the business to do.
Right. It sucks on and then you just get tired of it and everything. I honestly didn't realize that many people were, I guess, leaving recently. I saw, that Elizabeth was leaving because I follow her on Twitter, but I don't really follow the rest of the Guild Wars people. I don't care that much. So I didn't realize there was I guess a not quite mass exodus going on.
It's an en masse exodus.
They're all going to work for Terra?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to watch. A lot of times, Jason, the news comes as more of a shock than it actually is to the system as far as the game itself. We've seen execs leave. I mean, just look at Blizzard, who we're going to talk about next for totally different reasons. But just look at Blizzard with the high-profile names that have left over the course of the last 5 years or so, and things still keep going. You know, there's always that initial, oh my God, so-and-so's leaving, and then you find out, hey, it was like 500 people working on this stuff. That one person, while important and while community-facing, wasn't responsible for all of the things that we do well with our particular product. I hope that'll be the case for Guild Wars 2 here as well.
It's like there always are going to be changes, and
Yeah, absolutely.
you know, and you can't necessarily say, well, if something interesting, something really good or bad, what happens to Guild Wars 2 in the next 6 months, you don't say, well, that's because Mike O'Brien left.
Right. The only thing that concerns me, you know, makes me want to watch this one a little closer, is that this isn't one big departure. This is a series of layoffs and a series of very community-facing people departing, and that's typically not something you see a lot of unless there's some big changes coming. Maybe that's the case in ArenaNet, maybe it's not, but it's definitely what's got my eye, is that it's not just Mike O'Brien saying, I've done this for 20 years, I want to go make Commodore 64 games in my garage again. You know,
I think they're aiming a little higher than that.
A little bit, maybe. I don't know. Speaking of companies with departure, I've teased it enough. Let's talk about Hearthstone and Blizzard Entertainment. So unless you've been living under a rock for the last 24 hours as far as the gaming world goes, you probably know what happened. But to recap, just at the very high level, during a Hearthstone event taking place overseas, Blitzchung, very prominent Grandmasters Hearthstone participant, did on stream during an interview make a comment regarding the situation between China and Hong Kong right now. The comment being, "Liberate Hong Kong, revolution of our age," during an interview with two casters of the event. Following that, Blizzard decided that Blitzchung was going to be banned for a year, removed from the upcoming Grandmasters tournaments that he was scheduled to appear at, and had all prize money currently held revoked. The violation citation was in page 12, section 6.1 of Blizzard's document dictating rules and regulations for Hearthstone streamers and Grandmasters. This citation says, engaging in any act that, in Blizzard's sole discretion, that phrase will become important in a moment, brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image, will result in removal from Grandmasters and reduction of the player's prize total to $0 in addition to other remedies which may be provided for under the handbook and Blizzard's website terms, all of which they did enforce, and they tacked on a 1-year suspension or a 1-year ban from these types of events. The backlash to that banning has just not, let's say for the moment, has not been in Blizzard's favor. Lots and lots of people very upset at this, not only banning of Blitzchung, but Blizzard also turning around and firing the two casters of the event, who, although in the video to me it looks like they're kind of ducking under the table, you know, to avoid what is being said here, I don't think they actually knew what was going to be said in the interview. So I think that's overreach on Blizzard's part. We'll get more to that in a second. But 3 people caught in the crossfire here. The backlash against Blizz. Lots of boycott, hashtag boycott Blizzard, lots of people refunding various products that they've pre-ordered, canceling subscriptions to existing Blizzard services, things like World of Warcraft, a lot of that going on. Then we're seeing a lot of, it's now harder to cancel some subscription services than it normally is. A lot of people throwing up images of them getting denied and second and third factor authentication being required, such as sending in pictures of IDs, and it's becoming a bit of a mess. And Blizzard has stayed, and Jason will probably argue rightfully for the moment, pretty silent on it. Really, the only thing they've kind of said is the situation is having ongoing assessments being done. So I would expect a statement from them soon. The way things typically work, it'll happen in about 35 minutes after this cast has finished recording for the day. That catches you all up at a very high level. And guys, I don't want to get into a huge political discussion here about the situation in Hong Kong and China. While, yes, that is a very important discussion that should be had, it doesn't have a real purpose being discussed on this particular format show. It's not really going to get us anywhere. What I do want to talk about, though, is Blizzard's reaction. Because, Jason, I'll throw it to you first. The things that I typically see in these type of events, whether it's gaming related or just politically related or whatever, we saw this with the NFL, we saw and the kneeling protests, we saw it with NBA and China, really like a week before Blizzard and China had this happen. You always see two arguments come up, and the arguments are basically one, that the player or protester should be able to say whatever they want because it is their opinion and not necessarily the opinions of the organizations that they are playing for / represent. And then you see the other side of the argument, which invariably becomes, hey, whichever way your statement went, you should not be making that in that type of forum, and your employer or sponsor or whatever you want to call Blizzard's relationship with these players totally reserves the right to have done what they've done, whether you said free Hong Kong or if you said the exact opposite, you know, don't free Hong Kong, or free Hong Kong should be part of China. Whatever the equivalent, the other side is, it doesn't matter what the content is. Those types of statements, whether they're on the left, the right, the center, should just not be allowed in general. Those are the two main arguments you typically see in these situations, with a bunch of smaller ones. Where do you fall on this, Jason? Where does this all come down for you?
So you said we're going to revisit this. I'm going to go right back to it right now. The article, the thing that they said, the thing that's in the tournament rules, engaging in any act that in Blizzard's sole discretion brings you into public disrepute, offends a portion or group of the public, or otherwise damages Blizzard's image.
Right.
Those are the points that they are getting at, and they're saying that clearly. They're saying that yes, what he said does this. It does one of those things. It damages Blizzard, basically, to put it in to summarize it. Right,
and I'd want to stop you just for a second there, because we have seen other issues with other companies under vague terms like this too. I think Terra was the last big one we talked about, with some players using third-party apps. By the letter of the rules that everybody is playing by here, I don't think anybody on this panel would disagree that Blizzard certainly has the ability to do what they did. It's not the fact that they overreached or did something that they shouldn't have done, or taking a really loose interpretation of their own rules. I think all three of us would agree that Blizzard, in the confines of the situation and the way the rule is written, certainly had the right to do what they did. I think the disagreement then comes in on should they have.
It's meant as a catch-all, you know. For the really obvious stuff, like if you say, you know, Bobby Kotick is a pedophile or whatever, you know, okay, whatever, sure, Blizzard can nail you for that or whatever, sure, if you said something really stupid like that. But then so that brings up the question.
I feel like we need a disclaimer there. We do not have any information that would indicate that statement is true.
I wasn't talking about Randy Pitchford. Anyway.
We do not have any official statements that have been litigated in court that prove that is true about Randy Pitchford yet, either.
Anyway.
Jason, you're going to get us sued.
Anyway, as I was saying, it is all up to Blizzard's discretion as to whether any of this stuff damages things. And now it's interesting that I can remember a conversation we had, you and I, on Twemo like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
When Sony Online Entertainment said they were going to crack down on stuff on their forums.
Yeah.
And you said something like, well, what if I just say, you know, what if John Smedley says he likes a movie and I say I don't like it? And I say, yeah, Blizzard or SOE, they could ban you from their forums.
Yeah.
Because that could be at their discretion. That makes Smedley look bad or whatever.
Yep.
And then what could happen after that is you can go to Reddit and say, they banned me for something stupid like this, and everybody on Reddit is going to call SOE idiots and probably get you unbanned. That's kind of what's going on here. They have the right to tell the guy that he can't say that sort of thing, and the right to take action and so forth. But the repercussions of that, the fact that it is at their discretion, and a lot of other people don't agree with that discretion, is where the issue is.
Right.
That's what's going to get them in trouble, and that's what has gotten them in trouble, because it's 100% up to Blizzard how they decide to enforce this rule.
Yeah, and the whole thing Streisand affected like crazy, right? You know, they immediately cut to commercial, did this ban, and tried, just get it out of here, and let's not call attention to it, and invariably called a lot more attention to it in the process. So, yeah, it definitely backfired on them a bit on that front. Q, what are your thoughts on this initially? Because we were kind of watching it and like, this is, whether you, setting aside whether you agree with the statement or not, this is bad taste. And then when you think about the issue at hand being, human rights and lives, it just further cemented this idea of, wow, you actually went and banned this. Okay, let me think about what your motivations for that might possibly be, because we're talking about a revolution about human rights to a certain extent on certain policies between Hong Kong and China. Why would Blizzard have wanted to do this, to squash that message? And really, the internet kind of came forward with one main probable motivation, and that was Tencent and Blizzard's interests, financial interests in China, Q.
Well, it's a thing, right? Most video game companies have financial interests in China. There's a lot of people there that can be playing their games. And to be able to work in China, and we've all have known this forever with, there's requirements, there's things you have to do. And this is not me making excuses for what Blizzard did, by the way, but this is just me explaining. But there are things that you have to do in order to be eligible to do stuff in China. And you have to go through one of their publishers, the primary one being Tencent.
Right.
Like, even if you're not partially owned by Tencent, 10 to 1 you work with them. Like Hi-Rez works with Tencent, and there goes my camera again. What the hell?
Yeah, Hi-Rez's partnership with Tencent started exactly that way, as just a publishing deal for Smite in China. Now, that relationship has evolved to be a little more than that as well, but you're exactly right. It was, even if you're not going to own a controlling stake or a stake at all, we want to work with you to help us get our game published there.
Right, and it's the screen is driving me crazy. But anyway, it's the same. It's the same across the board for a lot of countries, and not just China. There's requirements you have to meet. But China's always had weird ones, right? Like, or weird to us, I should say, not weird, but like, for them to get World of Warcraft into China, they had to change skeletons to be tombstones when a character died. Right. Like, it was little things like that initially. For CCP to get EVE Online into China, they literally had to create their own server.
Right. But I think there's a difference that we need to acknowledge here. You're talking more about cultural changes, where I think there's more of a focus here on censorship changes.
And that's where I was good, because some of it is censorship changes, right? CCP doesn't have a separate server specifically for China, when literally everybody else in the world is on the same server, just because of cultural issues. It was because they didn't want because China didn't want their players playing with everybody else, right, to keep them away from the stuff that they might be exposed to that the state doesn't approve of. That's the reason China has their own special EVE Online server when nobody else does. Right. So it's there. It's always been there. But in this case, and I know people are like, well, he shouldn't have said it. It would have been okay if he'd said it if he was in America instead of on, Chinese soil. Someone said that on Twitter earlier today. And it's like, really? Because I'm pretty sure right after this happened, the NBA kicked 2 people out of a game for holding up Liberate Hong Kong sign.
That was Pocket that said that on Twitter. Somebody, all 3 of us.
I wasn't gonna name names.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, she put it out there under her handle, so I don't have any problem using the name. And the important addendum to that, by the way, is that I believe this took place in Taiwan, which is a whole nother bag of can of worms when you call it Chinese soil, because technically, but not a whole nother can of worms.
Let's not even get into that.
Exactly. So it's a whole other different thing. But even then, it's one of those things. Blizzard
I just love
supposedly
throwing it
has all
back to
these.
her with the green screen on there. I just here you go.
Blizzard supposedly has all these ideals, right? Of being like the things that are covered up now, that the staff went out and covered up around.
They've probably been removed now. I'm sure the coverings have been removed, but
right. But the ideals that they supposedly have, and these ideals of giving everybody a voice and that kind of stuff, suddenly doesn't matter when it comes to getting Chinese money.
Yeah, Jason, here's the thing, too. Tencent taking a little bit of flack on this one, but we don't actually know if Tencent had any involvement in this situation, in the decision-making, if they even said anything to Blizzard. Like, we don't have that piece of the pie. It's an assumed... the internet is assuming that because of the relationship between Tencent and Activision, what kind of maybe, I don't want to say discredits, but puts a damper on that idea is that there are companies that are either invested in or owned outright by Tencent that have blasted this whole situation very publicly. And I gotta believe that if Tencent had any involvement in Blizzard's decision, they certainly would have been saying things to, like, Tim Sweeney and stuff like that of Epic Games. What the hell are you doing? Yeah, we only control 40% of the company, but it's 40%. That being said, then you could look at the other side and say, well, wait a minute. Epic can probably say whatever the fuck they want right now because they're holding Fortnite. They're holding Fortnite, and Tencent in no way is going to cough up their 40% of the Fortnite cash cow right now.
Yeah, just to clarify, that's 40% for Epic Games that Tencent owns, whereas 5% is only, that's the percentage, or I think it's less than 5% is what they own of Activision Blizzard.
Right.
And the fact is, I feel like this would be the case, or at least there'd be some issue in case for any company. Like, suppose I'm the president of a game company or whatever. I'm owned 100% by me, but I've got an agreement to publish in China, and I have to do that through Tencent or NetEase or whoever. Am I still going to be iffy about saying some anti-China thing with a notion that I might lose all sorts of money out in China because of it? Yeah, I'm going to, regardless of who owns me. If I don't want to lose my 10 or 20 or 30% or whatever I'm making in China, I'm going to be a little iffy about that sort of thing, regardless of my ownership situation. So I don't personally think Tencent themselves got involved with this. I think it almost happened. I feel like almost it happened so quickly that it probably was a snap decision by somebody.
Like a knee jerk.
Yeah. I felt like a knee jerk reaction. And as you said, with Tim Sweeney coming out and saying very clearly that people, what he said, Epic supports the rights of Fortnite players and creators to speak about politics and human rights. And then he was asked in his phrase, someone said free Hong Kong in a post-game interview for Fortnite. He said, actions similar to what Blizzard did will never happen on my watch as the founder, CEO, and controlling shareholder. So he's very clearly saying this is okay at Fortnite tournaments and whatever else.
And I credit where due. It's the right thing to say. It's the good thing to say. But you take away some of that credit a little bit, it's easy to say it because you're the CEO of Epic Games that has nothing to do with this particular situation.
Yeah, but everybody's got something to do with it now.
Now, exactly. That was where I was going with this is, in addition to players boycotting the hell out of Blizzard right now, in addition to other game devs like Tim Sweeney from Epic Games, the team over at Hi-Rez, and other companies coming forth saying, whoa, we would never have done this. Now that kind of puts them all on the spot because a lot of things are being co-opted right now, including Overwatch characters themselves, to spread this free Hong Kong message. And that's fine. If that's your political view, you go do your thing. But we got BlizzCon coming up in 3 weeks. Holy hell, talk about the wrong time of year for something like this to go down. And I think all of these games and companies, some of the bigger ones, including Fortnite, are going to be put to the test on this really, really quickly, Jason.
ExileCon in mid-November.
Yeah.
And Tencent owns 80% of Grinding Gear Games. So yeah, that's going to be interesting. Yeah, and that's the thing is, and you're almost in a kind of bad situation here if you're Blizzard or any of these other companies. If Blizzard comes out, and I'm checking like Twitter like every minute or here to see if anything comes up. But if Blizzard says, first of all, if they say this, we're sticking by our rulings, you can't do this, they're going to get hell, thrown at them. If they say, well, okay, we reached some agreement with our Chinese people, it's okay to do this, they're still going to get it all the time now because people know they can. And it's going to be the same way with everybody else at every other event from now on. So, it's going to be tough for them to deal with. And like you said, what it comes down to is money.
Yeah.
But it's maybe not that much money.
Yeah, it's just, I got to just sit there and go, Blizzard is so big. Is it really worth this? Like, is it worth what's going on? I mean, not in addition to like the banning and the firing the casters and stuff, they shut down comments. They jumped in. What seemed like a knee-jerk reaction that probably could have been backpedaled pretty quickly, then got compounded in my book by just continuing to add on and start blocking, different forum posts and closing this and having no reply. I know, Jason, you think that probably right now is not the smartest time for Blizzard to reply until they know exactly where they're going to head and why they're going to head that way, and then they can make one statement and stick to it rather than having to worry about, well, we made a statement, then a statement, and these two conflict. I get that, but the longer this goes on, the worse this looks for Blizzard. It just absolutely looks terrible for them. And it doesn't matter whether you believed in the initial message of the player or not, or you don't know anything about it. It's a bad look for Blizzard either way. Q, I want to get your take on what I mentioned at the beginning, that whole like counter argument of, politics or things of a political nature don't have anything to do in this type of forum to begin with. Reading, James commented on our article when we initially posted this. James chimes in saying, Blizzard made the right decision. The interview was about the game, not to be used as a political platform.
That was the cat.
Imagine That's the cat thinks about politics, apparently.
Imagine if he had said, send in the Chinese army to take Hong Kong back, and Blizzard didn't take action. The world would then be against Blizzard also. So basically, the world just likes to side against China. Blizzard is only in the wrong if they aren't siding against China. If they did not punish him, then other people would start using gaming tournaments to express political views. I'm not a fan of Blizzard, but they made the right decision. It has nothing to do with Tencent or any other company. Anyone expressing political views should be banned. If he said Trump is the worst president ever, he should be banned. If he said Trump is the best president ever, he should be banned. What do you think of that side of this debate?
So from a community trying to keep everything balanced perspective, right, back in the Game Breaker days, we did kind of keep a moratorium on political discourse just because it is so difficult to moderate and stuff like that, and that's obviously not what we were built for.
Right.
But at the same time, on a personal level, when it's something that's this important, and you're someone who has access to a platform or an opportunity, even if it and like the guy said, he's not, he's not upset that he did it. Despite the repercussions, he's not upset that he did it because he took this opportunity to get something out there that honestly a lot of the people that we see on our Twitter now that are talking about it were not paying attention to before. Right. So he was still, despite the repercussions he got from it, he was still able to get it out there. Now, so I think he's really brave for doing that and taking the lumps that he's ending up getting from it. But I also, like I said, Blizzard, right? Like they've got this whole big game. Like when they launched Overwatch, it was like the world could always use more heroes, and it's like, well, this Blizzard, this isn't what heroes do. Like, yep. So from a personal perspective, I'm really kind of disappointed in them. I get it monetarily. I know that they've got Diablo Mobile coming out, and it is made for the Chinese market, so right. they really don't want to lose that market. But at the same time, it's, it kind of goes against everything that they told us that they stand for.
Jason, let's go with the final word from all three of us. And I want the question to be this. Do these punishments stand? Are they going to stand? Or at some point, relatively soon here, I would think, are they going to be eased or lifted entirely in response to the global outcry against Blizzard?
I think right now the delay we're getting is not so much about forming a proper statement, but it's Blizzard checking in with their Chinese partners to figure out what's allowable and whether they can get away with undoing the ban. I think that's what they would like to do. In a perfect world, that's what they would do right now. They would undo everything that's been done, reinstate the guy, reinstate the casters. Honestly, the casters getting canned probably bothers me more than anything else because they were almost like innocent bystanders in this whole thing. I think they will get reinstated at the very least. Then it comes down to the player. Will Blitzchung come back? And what about any future, things along this avenue? Any future statements people might want to make? I think they'll have to clarify their rules at the very least. I think there's going to be something there. But then I think they are going to have to find a way to at least lessen the penalty on Blitzchung. Say that yes, we were maybe a little arbitrary. We were maybe they won't admit it this way, but they'll basically in some way they'll say that we reevaluated things and decided that the initial punishment was too much. We will at least do something to help him out. We'll make things a little less. I think it's going to get toned down a tiny bit. I think this was a snap reaction by somebody who wanted to really just cut it all off with no controversy right away, and boy,
right.
Did that not work out.
Right.
So I think they're gonna definitely do something in that sense.
It's really weird for me too, because I'm one of those guys that kind of leans on, your politics are your politics. And whatever your issues, your hot button issues may be, they're your hot button issues. You vote, particularly here in the United States, you vote for whomever you want to vote for based on what you think they're going to do and how their interests align with your interests, and that's fine. I think in 5-6 years of doing this cast off and on, I think we've gotten into political type conversations maybe 2 or 3 times, usually in stories like this where we have to. I'm normally one of those, I'm going to leave my personal politics out of the cast. And so I kind of adopt that philosophy. Like if I was Hearthstone, I wouldn't broadcast my politics there. Where this kind of breaks down for me though, Q, and I think you and I had this conversation offline a bit, is this isn't politics just for the sake of politics. This actually comes down to human rights. And the treatment of individuals and certain policies that are impacting their actual ability to live and live free and do the things that maybe to a certain extent some of us take for granted. I'm not pretending to be intimately familiar with the plight of people from Hong Kong or the reasons China would want to do certain things with Hong Kong. I don't pretend to have that type of knowledge. But this one in particular is a little sticky for me because on one side I want to say, dude, you were paid to play Hearthstone. Go play Hearthstone and talk about Hearthstone. On the other side, I can't in good conscience say that when it comes down to people's lives and the point of the message. Whether you agree with it or not, fine, have that debate. But the message was made because of lives. I don't know. This is a sticky one for me, Q.
Yeah, I mean, and it's like I said, I pretty much agree with that. It's if it were almost, I think, not a human rights issue, and something that's been going on for a while now. I can't remember how many days. I saw something that like yesterday that tallied how many days that the protests and everything have actually been going on. And I mean, we kind of get glimpses of it, right? Like it'll pop up on our feeds or something or whatever, and you'll see like glimpses of what's happening, but you're not there in the middle of it like they are. So in that sense, like I said, he had a platform, and he just, if anything, he got more attention to what was happening than maybe a lot of people were paying to begin with. And on human rights issues, totally. Now, I mean, if you want to sit there and argue, like in our case, Democrat versus Republican or whatever and stuff, like, fine, do that at your family's Thanksgiving and just keep me out of it. Like, like if it's just general like that kind of stuff, but when it comes down to human rights issues, then it's something that everybody should be invested in anyway. And when you are a company that supposedly touts these issues, right, that you say that that these are your ideals and stuff like that, and then you turn around and pretty much go, oh well, but not if money is involved.
Yeah.
Then
it's got a bad taste. It's got a really bitter taste.
And I've always liked Blizzard because so much of what, like, I don't really play their games, but I always kind of liked them as a company because they always seemed to want to be what their ideal. But I mean, this was a hardcore decision. And yes, they did strictly follow exactly what the rule book said, down to taking away all his money.
They strictly follow their arbitrary interpretation of it. Yeah.
Well, that's the way
I don't think it was. I don't think it was an arbitrary interpretation. I think the rule is arbitrary and vague on purpose.
Yeah,
the actual penalty, they followed that to the letter.
Well,
and added
the ban and fired 2 casters.
But yeah. So the 2 casters thing, and like you said, there's no telling. Some people did say, well, they were hiding under the desk, so they knew it was coming. So maybe I guess they.
I think when I watched that playback, I feel like when Blitzchung came up and was wearing the mask and everything that is seen in some of the iconic images of the revolution that's going on and people wearing them, I think that's when the shoutcasters were kind of like, uh-oh, what is going on here? I don't want to be a part of it. Like, I didn't read their body language as they knew what was coming and were part of it. I read it as they kind of didn't know what the fuck to do, Jason. When the image came up and he was wearing that, it was like, oh my God, where is this going to go? I'm just duck for cover. I take me out of this. I don't know. I tend to agree with you, Jason. I think the punishment is going to be reversed to a certain degree, if not fully. And I think for Blizzard's sake, the faster the better, because BlizzCon's going to be a ton of fun. I could just see a bunch of panels canceled, and there's no way there's going to be a mic in the aisle for certain things. It's just...
Does Tencent own part of Twitch? I can't remember, because a lot of people are planning on spamming the crap
that's
channels.
That's Amazon, isn't it?
Yeah, it is Amazon, but does Tencent have any involvement in it whatsoever? It's always hard to tell these days.
I don't know. Tencent's got everything. Who knows?
I know that's the thing. You just assume that Tencent knows everything. They have they're involved in movie making and all this stuff. So you just assume that Tencent is in everything.
Everything I can find is that Tencent,
they've got their own streaming service.
Right, they own their Chinese version of Twitch. So, all right, we are going to ask your opinion on this whole situation in the question of the week. So we're going to give everybody a chance to chime in, and we'll put your answers on next week's show. All I ask, and I know this is a big ask because it is the internet, is that we keep the comments respectful. Jason, Q, and I think just had a very intelligent discussion about a topic without
we had a discussion
without fighting about anything. And whether you agree or disagree with the actual statement being made, I think it's a discussion worth having as far as Blizzard's reaction goes on the free-to-play cast. That's where I think our discussion for the purposes of this forum should focus a little more. Let's slide over and do the weekly bombs. Jason, you're up.
I feel like I've been giving these guys an A-bomb or a dub-bomb every week, but whatever. A-bomb this time to ArenaNet for their account security loopholes. So Massively OP did a really good story, investigation, interview they had with a guy who hacked the account of Gail Gray, who was a very prominent ArenaNet employee, one of the original employees, along with Mike O'Brien back in 2000. He hacked her account back in 2016 and got in Guild Wars 1 and started doing all sorts of awful things. And he got, of course, he got actual court action taken against him. But the reason he got into her account was because he had originally been trying to access some of his old accounts and talk to customer support and got into them without having to really provide any sort of details. He was like, well, let me see if I can keep doing this. And he did. He got into some other accounts. And then he was like, yeah, I'm going to tell the ArenaNet about this. He tried. He filed tickets. He even got a little attention from some of the guys on Reddit. But it still never got fixed. He was finally like, well, I got to do this to someone prominent enough. So he got on Gail Gray's account, screwed with her. Then they took notice. Then they started trying to implement some security procedures.
Yeah.
Also, they took him to court in Germany. That's where he was from. Just a big mess because they just didn't pay attention to him in the first place. So.
It's a great piece.
Yeah.
Kudos to Bree Royce over at Massively for the write-up, and kudos on behalf of her to her husband for helping translate a lot of the German documents that they had to go through. Definitely worth a read to go check that one out. Q, go ahead.
I'm going to give the annual A-bomb to, it being yet another year, and the only thing coming out of Secret World is the same stuff that we've had.
Fair enough.
I'm so disappointed.
I'm going to give a dub-bomb to Q's usage of green screening. And I'm going to give a dub-bomb to Path of Exile because their recent posts are really just right up my alley. If you go check out their site or check it out on MMO Bomb, they do these. They've been doing these like behind-the-scenes look, how they create different things like NPCs and stuff like that. I just love that kind of stuff. I can sit there and read and watch it for hours. So dub-bomb to Path of Exile. From the viewers, Hydrix Sky Shadow says, A-bomb to hackers. I swear I just want to be able to reach through the monitor and punch the hacking bleep on the other side. And you might wonder, Mike, we've heard you swear on this show, including the F-bomb. What did you bleep here? It's the C word. And I will say the F word on this show, but I will not say the C word on this show. So, Hydrex Sky Shadow, a bit miffed at hackers. Go ahead, Jason.
Nameless Drifter says, more Destiny 2 content.
Great
please.
name. Great name.
I've been playing for a couple of years now and keep going back, even though it feels like there's so much stuff to do. There's no efficient way to use my time. I'm well over the soft cap, but I've still never played a raid, and have a backlog of 3 full pages of quests to catch up on just to feel current. I'm already at like power level 900. Shouldn't I be raiding pretty soon?
yeah, you're a little off. Your power level is now going to start very slowly going up now.
Okay.
You'll hit 900, and then on your way to 960, your legendary engrams aren't going to do anything for you anymore, Jason. You're going to need to be picking up prime engrams, which are rare drop, or doing your weekly stuff to get the powerful gear engrams now. So it jumps fast once you get to 900. So the leveling process
doesn't mean, listen, I'm about to get into the real game.
Yeah, right. Go ahead, Q.
People said this wasn't an MMO.
Raggedy, A-bomb to having to play at peak hours to have a good experience with a game. When I played Super Monday Night Combat, the game had just came out and it was fun, but as the game got older, it was obvious that it was dying player-wise. You could still find a game out of peak hours and the wait was longer, but it was still fun to play no matter how you played.
A little bit of a dig there at Planetside Arena. Which
I was just going to look it up. How many people are in the game right now?
Yeah, I was going to go to
you. Oh, 77. Not bad.
Hey, that's,
about a quarter
almost a tenth of 1,000 players. Win says, my question is, Destiny 2 throws in your face a bunch of content, but is it really? It's hard to explain, but I feel like you give me an eye level 750 character. It's true that I can come back and do, say, vanilla content. However, all the drops will be like eye level 100 or whatever, so what's the point to do that? Sorry, my example may not really be correct since I don't play Destiny 2. If I translate it to something I understand, like World of Warcraft, I make a new character on a new expansion, it'll be level 110. Will I come back to kill the Lich King, the level 80 raid? Yeah, I may do it for the mount or the achievement, but do I really care about that? No, I'd rather just level up and do 110 to 120 content, the current expansion shit first. So there's a little misunderstanding that you have in there, and it comes from not having played Destiny 2, so no criticism here. Going back and doing, and Jason, you've started campaign content, so you can talk about this too. No, if you go back to do a campaign, an original Destiny 2 launch campaign, the Red War, the gear that drops in there is not going to be item level 100. Because the way gear works in Destiny is the drops are based on the power level of your current gear set. So if you're at 750 and you go do earlier game content and you get a blue drop or a legendary purple drop, it's going to be around 750, 760 right there. Even though it's much older content. The loot works differently than you're thinking of in World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy 14 or something like that.
Yep.
Go ahead, Jason.
Squeezy says, A-bomb to every game developer. I want my
All
goddamn...
of them.
Every one of them. All of them. Hate them all. I want my goddamn MMORPGs that are not just cash grabs with potato optimization. I've been playing PC games since 2001, back in our day. Mainly MMORPGs. I've never been so frustrated while browsing for a game to play. Every game on the market is either dead population-wise, full of pay-to-win aspects, or unplayable due to bad or clunky mechanics. I tried playing WoW and Final Fantasy XIV, but some games are not worth it for me since I can only play during weekends, and not for a long time since there's always something popping up. Yeah, you're kind of screwed.
A little bit. Go ahead, Q.
Nesagra, I would give an A-bomb to Blizzard over the Blitzchung situation, but that would be too nice to Blizzard. Can I give them a burn in hell? Well, you actually wrote out HE double hockey sticks. Bomb instead.
I like that. I like that.
Canadians are too nice to say hell, so they go with what they know, which is hockey.
Hockey.
Right,
Nasagra, you'll have your chance to chime in full to the question of the week when we get there. Question of the week. Last week, we talked about Destiny 2, so now that they're both free to play, Destiny 2 or Warframe. That was the debate when Destiny 2 came out. Now they're both free to play. Let's see where you guys stand on it now. Hydrex Sky Shadow says, question of the week. That's a rhetorical question, right? Or maybe a joke? Warframe has almost 100, well, Warframes with different abilities and looks. Destiny has 3 classes. Warframe has over 200 different weapons that you can mod the way you want, and an actual melee combat system. Destiny has about 10 different weapons, and if you want a specific one, maybe it's going to drop, maybe, probably not. And as for cosmetics, almost every single item in Warframe can be bought somehow with no need for money. Destiny is like, hey, I have a battle pass. How about you give me your money? And last but not least, the player base of, in Warframe, you have an actual team to play, a reason to play support or defender since it's a viable option. I play Frost and I defend the objective. It's not only necessary for higher difficulties, it's also fun. Destiny, well, at least 2 hunters every single effing strike, and for the love of God, do the Titans know they have a shield to protect. Don't get me wrong, I like Destiny, but as a game, it's nowhere near Warframe. One was made for free-to-play, and the other used free-to-play as a last option. One is interested in trying to make the player feel as badass, and one is trying to be a Halo clone. Hydrex, thank you immensely for your verbose feedback. Go ahead, Jason.
I don't know where you find hunters and strikes. It's always warlocks for me, but... RS Jabber says, question of the week, I'll be playing both. Already have the frames and weapons I wanted, so I can finally just kill stuff for fun. Destiny, on the other hand, seems to have really nice lore and atmosphere. I'm sure it does, but you can't find it anywhere. I'm going to take my time with it.
Q, go ahead. Green screen.
Again, okay. Succopex, I haven't played Destiny 2 yet, so I'll certainly give it a shot. From the gameplay I've seen, though, I don't think the combat is going to keep me in. I love Warframe's character movement and speed. Nothing is quite like it.
Strikers 31 says, question of the week, personally I prefer Destiny 2 over Warframe for a few reasons. Now, Striker put a very long post that is really, I suggest you read it. It's on the YouTube video if you're kind of mulling over which game to play. I will read you the Destiny 2 points. There's also a lot of Warframe points, and reading both points, having played both games, I could tell that Striker is coming from a place of having a lot of experience with both titles and really trying to make a legit comparison, not like troll anybody or anything. So I'm going to read you the Destiny 2 ones. I suggest you go read the entire post on the YouTube video, though. Destiny 2 has an entry point and step-by-step process of showing you how things work and ease of access. New players can compete with veterans on roughly similar playing fields. Every item obtained has pros and cons while also feeling you're getting better slowly. All content is still relevant regardless of what you're doing. Go back to our gear discussion earlier. If you lose a valuable item, you can claim it at the post with no fees. Balancing items on a consistent basis and expansions are the only primary purchases. No pay-to-win mechanics. So those were Striker, who prefers Destiny 2, thoughts on Destiny 2. Read the rest of the post to check out thoughts on Warframe and the final comparison between the two, why Striker landed on Destiny 2. Go ahead, Jason.
My God, there's a ton of bombs this week. Jesus. Or question of the weeks.
Yep.
Squeezy says, question of the week, Warframe for life. I spent way too much on that game to even consider abandoning digital extremes in Warframe. I've been playing Warframe since it launched. My only regret is not buying a Founders when I had the chance.
Cute.
Mort Wolf, Destiny 2 is good as a COD sci-fi shooter with extremely forgiving hotboxes. Warframe is all about the melee, which is the best sci-fi Dynasty Warriors to date.
Assuming that it was meant to be hitboxes on that one. Soul says, Warframe has way too much content to not be superior. Destiny will still have you pay for more content later on, which Warframe isn't going to do anytime soon. Warframe also has better characters to play. My biggest issue with Destiny is I don't feel like I can make my characters my own. Jason.
Rigordy says, question of the week, guess I'm going to go Warframe again. The one big difference for the two is Warframe is true free-to-play. Everything DE does for Warframe story-wise is free. Only cosmetics are locked behind premium currency. I'd say weapons and frames are as well, but you can get them in-game without grinding super hard. One thing I know some of the Warframe community want is PvP, and what's in now is subpar, but for me, and many I know have played it that way, see it as a PvE game. As far as Destiny 2, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. I played the story when they gave it for free on Battle.net, but dipping back in now, I'm just lost. It might be gamer ADD, but I lose interest after an hour or so.
Go ahead, Q.
The Ninja Assassin, Warframe, easily. I really enjoyed Destiny 2 because of how gorgeous and polished it is, but Warframe's gameplay is just insane. And it's only been getting better. The newest frame, Goss, look up the profile trailer for it, and their newest game, there's stuff moving. Their newest game mode disruption are just pure fun. Plus, it's a better deal for free-to-play players because nothing is locked behind a paywall. Not even the cosmetics that cost platinum, because plat can be earned in-game via trading. I'm probably going to buy Forsaken and Shadowkeep soon because I'm enjoying my time with Destiny 2, but Warframe has my heart. There's nothing like it. The super slow cooldowns in D2 just hurt my soul as a regular Warframe player.
Finishing it up, the house always wins says, question of the week. I have played Destiny 2 and Warframe extensively for the past few years. I look at them as two different types of meals. Destiny 2 is fast food, quick, easy to get into, fun to chomp on, but eat too much of it and your wallet might suffer, i.e. paid for the expansions. Warframe is like Space Mom's home-cooked meal, hearty, filling, and meant to be savored. Plus, you're always welcome to have seconds or thirds, free, i.e. free expansions. Both games are fun and have extensive content that can keep you busy for months, and each game, like a meal, is different enough to warrant repeated servings. The house always wins. I always love when you comment. It's always good stuff like that. My opinion, I gotta think all three of us can weigh in, or Q, you probably don't care on this one. I gotta give the edge to Warframe 2. I love both games. Everybody that watches the cast or reads MMO Bomb knows that I love both games, Warframe and Destiny. And I think if you're looking for PvP and that's your thing, well then it's a no-brainer. You go play Destiny 2. But setting that particular audience aside that's looking just at PvP, I think you still got to go with Warframe. You're going to get your loot fix. You're going to get a ton of content. The Empyrean update's going to be sick when it drops. I mean, there's just so much there. Destiny 2 has an awful lot to offer, but if you're making me pick one out of the two games that are really high on my love-to-play list, I got to go Warframe. Jason?
Having only played Warframe for about an hour and a half, I have to go Destiny 2 right now. But again, I've only played that for like a week now, so.
Q, do you have a favorite? I don't think you have a horse in this race.
I've played Warframe a little bit. I obviously never played Destiny 2 because, yeah. But, I mean, what I've played of Warframe for what it is great. It's just not my cup of tea.
Question of the week this week, it's a two-parter. One, was Blizzard in the wrong to ban anyone over the Hong Kong comments? And two, is a boycott of Blizzard, like what is going on now, the best response from the global community? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. While you're there, please, I know there's going to be a lot of comments on the Blizzard thing. Don't forget your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something good, A-bomb for something bad, or your question for the panel. We'll be sure to put it on next week's show. Until then, Q, where can everybody find you?
On Twitter at Quitland, talking about extremely rare steaks and Michael Sheen in chains.
Sounds good. Jason?
Find me on Twitter at Winter Informal, streaming at twitch.tv/JasonWinter, and I am checking Twitter, and there's no comment yet on what's going on with Blizzard. So we made it through the cast. Give it another 10 minutes.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally on Twitter right there at magicman1. But more importantly, while you're there, follow at MMOBomb so that you get tweets about all the latest giveaways, interviews, previews, articles, first look videos, free-to-play casts, free-to-play weeklies, and so much more sent right to your Twitter feed. Until next time, gang, stay safe And we'll see you out on the servers.